there is how many times Nigeria Super Falcons have won the CAF Women's Africa Cup of Nations, 10-time champions. Even the hosts of this year's tournament, Morocco, they've hosted it in 2022, 2024, and now 2026, but they have never won the title. Nigeria has won it 10 times, but this time around, we're going to see new champions of the Women's Africa Cup of Nations. And for the World Cup, since 1991, Nigeria has always qualified, but this is the first time that they will not be going to the FIFA World Cup. 9 appearances, 3 knockout stage runs. The best performance so far for the Super Falcons had been the quarterfinals, and that was in 1999. And in the knockout stage, they had the 1999, 2019, and then 2023, where they went on to make it to the knockout stage. But sports obviously looks like it is facing a major decline. Now, for the Super Falcons facing this World Cup miss for the first time in history, we look at, since its inception in 1991, a remarkable 35-year run for qualifying for all 9 previous editions of the Women's World Cup. Now, the historic elimination has intensified scrutiny of coach Justin Madugu, the NFF's preparation, and the wider direction of Nigerian women's football. The NFF has apologized, while government scrutiny and calls for accountability continue to grow. Now, I've got Emeka Anyadike, who joins us more on this conversation. Now, Emeka, the simple question is, a lot of Nigerians are calling for the head of the coach. Some are calling for the head of the NFF. Some are saying both the team, the coach, the NFF should be disbanded. What is your take on this conversation?
First of all, thanks for having me. Secondly, I don't know why anyone will say the NFF should be disbanded. We're not in a military government here where the word disbanded is something that was very prevalent. The NFF is a body corporate that is set up. It's an association of members of football community and stakeholders and all of that in Nigeria. And they have a structure where they have elections. They will have one this year. Every 4 years, they have elections and they elect people who were there. So we've come to the end of a cycle where we need to analyze and review what they've achieved in their tenure. And there's been a lot of talk about, how do you judge the NFF? I mean, they failed to qualify for the World Cup for men and women. And in both instances, they had the chance to go through the playoffs, which didn't work out. What this says is that something has not been done right. And the scrutiny has to begin with what kind of structure do we have? Because, I mean, look, Nigeria, we hit a certain height in the 90s. And from then, it's been downhill. And yes, we did win AFCON in 2013. And last year, I mean, the last AFCON played in we got to semifinals, the previous one we got to the finals. But, Nigerian football is viewed only from the lens of the national team. We need to look at the league. We need to look at the structure. What structures we have at grassroots level, what levels we have at state levels, because we have, when you look at the structure of the NFF, the elections are run by the state FAs voting for who comes in there. And the question is, so what are we doing with our football generally? What is the structure of football? And how do we get it to work from down up and not up down? Because what we're doing in Nigeria, we look at the national team always, and our national team is made up of players who are playing in Europe. And if we don't have a good structure where we can identify players, we can put them through certain systems, we can know that, okay, these are the players that we're going to have, and these are the kind of preparations that we will put in place. Our team, the Super Falcons, they've never missed the World Cup before. In the AFCON finals, it's only twice when Equatorial Guinea won, that Nigeria didn't get to as far as the finals. So the problem is one that is beyond talk of disbandment and all of this. So we need a total restructuring of Nigerian football. We need to put in place a modern structure that identifies commercialization, identifies the business of football. It's the only way. This scenario where everything is based on government, is based on last-minute preparations. The Super Falcons for this AFCON, we knew that it was meant to be in March. It was moved from March to August. which means July, August, which means we already had close to 6 months or 5 months thereabout, and we didn't put in a preparation. Yeah. The leagues in Europe, where a lot of the girls play, finished in May. So we had over a month of proper preparation, which we didn't do because the team looked very, very heavy, leggy, and they just didn't seem to be the right kind of formation. And then, of course, the coaching at this tournament was not anything to write home about. The quality of play. If we lose the game because the opponents were better, I would excuse that. But I didn't find one opponent of Nigeria that had superior talents. They just were more organized, and their girls were fitter, and they were hungrier, and they needed to be where they were, and they qualified. I mean, Malawi in the finals, justifiable. Cameroon in the finals, justifiable. They have a lot of young players. We haven't had the right kind of transition. We have all these young players who go through the under-17, under-20, and we don't have enough of them progressing into the Super Falcons. These girls won their 10th title a little over a year ago, and the motivation just wasn't there. It seemed like they had done something remarkable, but in this tournament, we didn't even need them to win the AFCON. What we needed them to do was qualify for the World Cup. Yeah. And they failed to qualify. They failed to hit the automatic qualification. Then they had the chance against South Africa, and they were just totally out of their depths. And the kind of goals they considered, the way they played, you just found that my biggest problem with the team was the selection. I don't think that we are selecting the best players Nigeria has to offer. And sometimes we are looking at the names of the players and their pedigree. We need to look at, the talented players. And believe me, if we put together a team, if we build our female league in Nigeria, we can pick a team that will have structured training and get to a point where we don't need to always rely on players who are abroad, because right now we just seem to go after any player who's playing anywhere abroad without looking at whether they are totally even better than some of the players who are playing down in Africa. We just have to have a total restructure of our football, identify the right leadership, identify the right technical tool, and then put in place a framework that allows us to build from the ground again, because right now we have hit rock bottom, whether we want to believe it or not. And the level we're at now, I don't think we can fall any lower than where we are right now. And Nigeria does not deserve this because we have the talents. The most important ingredient, in fact, we have the two most important ingredients. We have the fans and we have the talents. So the question, left to you is, we need to relook our leadership models. We need to relook our strategic models and just look at it and say, some of these players that we have in our team, maybe they're not as good as we think they are. Right. We have to agree that some of the countries in Africa have caught up with us, and they don't need to have better players than us. They just need to have better organization. And trust me, I wrote the FIFA forward. Along with my colleagues, we wrote the FIFA Forward report on the investments in the last segment. And one of the things that we found, there are a lot of countries are investing in women's football. Zambia, for instance, and Malawi, you find that they've risen in the pecking order because they're able to organize their girls, they're able to support them, they're able to travel, they're able to do a lot of things. So FIFA Forward is not always about building pitches and building physical infrastructure. It's also about technical development. And then we need to also look at the commercial side. How much are we doing to identify sponsors? The last time the Super Falcons had a proper sponsor was 22 years ago when Indomie was the sponsor. And I remember working on that project. All right. We have the most attractive girls. You can see them with how much they engage on social media. Brands should be falling over them, and they should have products, hair products, we have skin products, we have all kinds of things identified with women, which should be able to support them. They shouldn't struggle. There shouldn't be questions about whether their allowances are paid or not paid, or they're trained or they're not training. We need to take this as a shock treatment and get back to the basics. We have the players, we have the talents. even if you take out this whole bunch, there's still another group of Super Falcons that can dominate Africa. Nigeria can produce 2 teams in the finals. So we're at that point where we have to make this very, very difficult call, and we have to see it as it is. And I'm saying it that there's a need for a change, and that change has to start from the top.
All right, so that change has to start from the top. Emeka Anyadike, thank you very much for your submission. And of course, we look forward to more from you as this story develops, most especially as the NFF elections are drawing nearer. Thank you very much for joining and giving us your own take on this conversation.